Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today we're going to talk about India's G20 presidency. Now, India will assume the presidency of G20 for 1 year from 1st of December 2022 to 30th of November 2023. As many as 200 meetings of the G20 member states, invitees and organizations across over 50 cities in India are being planned in the run-up to G20 summit, which will be finally held in September 2023. Now, the 18th G20 Heads of State and Government Summit will take place on 9th and 10th of September 2023 in New Delhi. The summit will be a culmination of all the G20 processes and meetings held throughout the year among ministers, senior officials and civil society representatives as well. The theme for India's G20 presidency is One Earth, One Family, One Future, which highlights the importance of having an approach that unites the world to address the future together and of meeting expectations of developing countries with regard to global challenges such as climate action as well. So today we'll try and understand the significance of India being the president of G20 for this year and what all is planned, what is on the agenda out here. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with retired Major General Dhruv C. Katoch is here in the studio with us. He's the director of India Foundation. Welcome, General Katoch, to the studios. Aditi Bhaduri is also joining us. She is the founding editor of International Affairs Review, and former ambassador Vivek Karju is also with us. Welcome, both of you as well. I'll begin with you, General Katoch, and let's start by asking the obvious but most important question here. What is the significance? What is so important about India being the president of G20 for this whole year? Why is it so significant?
I think for India, it gives us a unique opportunity now to showcase India's democracy and the development which has taken place. It is very rare to get such an opportunity when the entire focus of the world is going to be on India. And this is coming at a very crucial time. You see, we have been through 2 years of a pandemic. And in the last 1 year, when the pandemic recovery was taking place, that was the time when the Russia-Ukraine war started. So the world still is in a very serious state of flux, as I can say. And this is the time when we are assuming the presidency. So it throws up tremendous opportunities and tremendous challenges also. This is one. Number two, if you look at the previous president was Indonesia, now it is India, then it will go to Brazil. We have got 3 countries from the global south which will have the presidency continuously. I think that is going to be a tremendous game changer, because for the first time, the interests of the global south can be highlighted in a manner where we can look at equitable development and inclusive development for the whole world, not simply for the G7 countries. I think that is a very important thing. The last point which I wish to say it is that for India, we are also looking at what the Prime Minister called the Amrit Kaal.
The Amrit Kaal.
The last 25 years before we reach 100, we've crossed 75. Right now we've crossed 75. And for the next 25 years is going to be a period of India's developmental agenda to achieve a developed economy status. Now this is coming at that time. Right? It gives us an opportunity to showcase India, right? To put us, as a push start to the Amrit Kaal 1. It puts you on in the global agenda to state, okay, there are wars going on, can we do something about it? Though G20 is not mandated for that, but it has got many multiple goals. It is simply not financial anymore, right? Can we do something in the health sector, in the education sector, in the business sector, in the Think 20, in the R20, which has started the Religion 20? Can we get the world together? In the, as you started off, one earth, one future. One earth, one future. Can we do that? And I think that is going to be India's aim.
Okay. Indeed, the theme itself, summarizes what exactly India is going to try and achieve during this year. But since you mentioned about Global South on this one, I'd like to bring in Ambassador Karju here. Ambassador Karju, of course, we would like to know your views on the importance and significance of India holding the presidency of G20 for this year, but also going a bit deeper further, what General Katoch was referring to, and also the External Affairs Minister also referred to the same thing just a day ago. That is the focus being on Global South and the expectations of the Global South and the challenges for these nations as well. So what is exactly what we are looking at?
Look, I think I can't recollect any summit as important as the G20 summit, which we'll be hosting, to be held in India for the last 4 decades. In my mind, goes back indeed to the non-aligned summit that we hosted in the early 1980s. After that, for sheer uh, power in terms of representation, this will be the first time that we will be hosting such a summit. And clearly, the presidency of the G20 is a very significant moment for our diplomacy. And India, as General Katoj so well put it, will have opportunities, but as well as challenges, because the next year, uh, while the COVID shadow continues, the world's attention is actually on two things: on the Ukraine conflict and on the what I would say is the contestation between the United States and China. So we will have to navigate the world at this stage, and it will not be an easy process. But I think our diplomacy will be up to it.
Okay.
Secondly, as far as the representing the global south is concerned, of course, India is a developing country, but India is in a very peculiar situation because we are not a classic developing country. We are what is termed as an emerging economy in the sense that we are both part of the trade unions of the world as well as part of the management of the world. After all, our aspiration is to be on the high table in the United Nations Security Council and elsewhere. So we, while representing the global south and voicing the concerns of the global south, have to be aware of the fact that the global south is aware that we are not now a classic global south country as we were 40 years ago.
Okay.
It was easy for us then because we were clearly part of the trade unions then. We were not part of the management systems. Today, we are aspirational and we are part of the management system. So it gives us an opportunity to represent the global south, but we will have to prove our credentials to them in this respect, and that will be a challenge.
Okay. Okay, indeed, that's going to be important and challenging as well. Aditi, in your views, when we're talking about the key focus areas, as both the gentlemen are also pointing out, diplomatic challenges in terms of, putting India's case forward and also representing the expectations of other nations involved here. Apart from that, issues like climate financing, issues like transition to clean energy, and other aspects of sustainable development. These are the major issues for which a clear solution, clear path, moving ahead is yet to be found by all the nations.
Right. So that is why I think that this is a very critical moment in which India will be chairing the G20 summit. It is also the year when India has taken over the SCO chairmanship, to 2023. So it is a very challenging, but also very exciting year for India to prove itself in so many different ways in different fields. Now, as you said, so many challenges, global warming, climate change. And I'd like to point out what Prime Minister Modi said in his address in Bali at the recent summit, that multilateralism has failed. I mean, the UN really is, we saw it in terms of, the role of the WHO in the COVID pandemic. The UN, the UN system, it's failing. I mean, conflicts are breaking out. We have the Ukraine crisis going on. So that is why, it is forums like the G20, which will be emerging as more important ones in which in which you will tackle these global issues which have come up, and that is why India, both as a member of the global South, but also as Ambassador Kajju just pointed out, not a classical case of a country of the global South. It will have a lot of work to do, but it will also be setting maybe new paradigms, new standards, because we are seeing that the old world is, it's falling apart. It's and a new world is coming up, and there's this transitional period. I mean, it is India who is in a situation where it can talk to Russia, it can talk to US, it can navigate these challenges and navigate these territories. So indeed, yes, it is a very crucial moment in international relations, and at a critical time when India is taking over this mantle.
Okay. That brings us to that important aspect, General Karoch, and then as Aditi was also referring to, and Mr. Karchu was also mentioning, the issue of multilateral reforms. When we're talking about challenges vis-a-vis, Russia-Ukraine conflict, vis-a-vis China angle, then we also have to look at how reforms in the multilateral forums is really important and significant as well. How do you see this year, throughout these discussions and the summit as well at the end of it in September 2023, trying to tackle this particular aspect?
I think Aditi has very rightly put it. There are certain organizations which have really not been able to deliver to the extent which was required of them in the present challenges. Like if you take the role of the UN, they were totally ineffective as far as the war in Ukraine is concerned. They have been pretty ineffective as far as what happened in Iraq, in the Gulf, you can say, in Afghanistan, etc. So what we were really seeing is some countries pushing their way through. Now, I think that needs to change. So obviously, the UN, which was formed at one point of time, it has served its purpose perhaps well, but it is time for a change.
Okay.
Now, how the change
and what
comes
do we
about,
bring to the table?
Now, you see, you've got to get other countries involved, especially you've got to get India involved. If India is the fifth largest economy, and we are perhaps the most populous or the second most populous nation in the world. And to say that you're going to keep India out of it doesn't really make sense. Because without India, nothing is going to work. So there will be changes which will be required as to how we do up a revised UN Charter. Because what existed earlier needs to change now. That is one. The second point, I think, when we are looking at organizations like the G20, I think it is much more important as an organization which can do something than the UN. Because when you look at it, if you just simply see the composition of the G20, you're looking at about 85% of the global wealth, the trade taking place amongst these countries. It represents 2/3 of the world's population. And if these countries can come together and do something, I think it will be applicable across the world. But of course, it will have to be equitable, inclusive, and sustainable. The three words which I think are very, very important. And that is why I think India's role will come in as on assuming the presidency tomorrow.
Okay.
It is going to be a very important role because for very long, since independence, in terms of foreign policy, we have been diffident. But the last 8 years has shown a tremendously proactive stance in diplomacy. It has been really a complete change as far as diplomacy is concerned. Now, India needs to get on the world map in all spheres. Can we do it? We will move towards that direction, but I think our success or the degree of success will depend on how far are we prepared to engage in the challenges of the world. Okay. On two issues, I know we will do very well. We are going to move climate change, and that we are going to move by personal example. And I think we will force motivate the developed countries to give off funds and technology.
Okay.
So this is something which I think we can do. The second thing is in terms of digital governance. India has shown the way, especially in terms of financial transactions, the way we handle COVID, etc. This is a model for the world, and I'm quite certain that India will be prepared to share its expertise and knowledge with the rest of the world and pull them together on this.
Okay, okay. So these are two areas, of course, where we can tell the world that, look, this is how it can be done. This is the best way. We have tried and tested it as well.
Yes.
And there will be, of course, other issues and other challenges also. And Mr. Karju, looking at all those challenges which you were also earlier referring to, Aditi and General Karju also pointed out. And when we also look at the theme for this year's presidency, one Earth, one family, one future, then in your views, what can be, now that we are beginning the presidency, the year ahead, what can be the tangible outcomes, one, and two, perhaps the lowest hanging fruits in terms of achievements throughout this year?
Look, I entirely agree that solutions like to climate change cannot simply be found without India's full participation. After all, we are 1/6 of humanity. We are the world's second populous country in the world, and soon we will be the most populous country. And our economy has grown. We are the fifth largest economy. And our economic success, I'm sure, is on firm foundations and will continue. But I have a submission to make. And here I would submit the following thought to what General Khatun said. I don't think Indian diplomacy was ever diffident. Were we diffident when we took up the mantle for leading the decolonizing process in the world? Were we diffident when in 1971 we faced the gravest challenge that we've ever faced and we came out successful through it? So just as in the last 8 years, under the prime ministership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, I think as the Prime Minister himself has said, that all previous governments have contributed to our national interest. And therefore, the present time is a time when we are faced with new opportunities and challenges, and we are not showing any diffidence in meeting those challenges. But then, while asserting that we are not showing any diffidence and we are full of confidence,
Okay.
I would submit for your consideration and General Katoch's consideration that in the past too we showed no difference. When it came to our national interests, India was always firm. Our styles may have been different then, but certainly the substance of our diplomacy and, when necessary, our power projection never faltered.
And that exactly seemingly is the path ahead when we're talking about the diplomatic challenges here as well. Aditi, in your views, when we're talking about the key aspects, earlier we spoke about the issues of climate financing, the issues of clean energy transition, infrastructure development, of course, and General Khatoj was referring to, digital governance, an area where we have a lot of practical experience to show to the world that this is how it has been done. So what is it that perhaps the G20 as a forum can achieve in this year under India's presidency in terms of key aspects when we are looking at?
I think, yes, certainly data development, which has been, also one of the aspects that has been the focus, that will be the focus of India's G20 presidency, say like the COVID platform, right? I mean, it is the largest vaccination campaign in the world. So there is certainly, these are things that India can showcase, India can lead. Yes, data development is certainly an area. And as you said, that we have a lot of experience in this. Interestingly, I would like to touch upon another, one of the five areas that the Prime Minister outlined would be the focus of India's G20 presidency is also women's empowerment.
Indeed.
I mean, this is,
the women-led development.
Women's development and empowerment. And, when you think of these, the gas connections across the country, right? or even the how the Panchayati Raj system works with 30 days. I mean, there are countries, of course, which have done better than us in terms of parliamentary representation of women. But yet at the grassroots, India, with its huge population, it can, this is one of the areas where it has a lot to showcase and perhaps be an example to the world. But also in terms of diplomacy, there was this article in the Foreign Policy magazine which said that, with all eyes on India's G20 presidentship, India is kind of a bridge between the global south and the apparent north, global north. It is emerging a voice for the global south, which is very important. It has invited countries like Mauritius and Egypt and Bangladesh to the summit, and also organizations like the Asian Development Bank, the International Solar Alliance. So there are a number of areas in which how far we will, what we will achieve, because the G20, the conclusions are not binding. So that remains to be seen, of course.
Okay. But at least that shows a path ahead, a way ahead on all these issues which we're debating about. Quick concluding comments from you, General Katoj, before we bring this to an end in terms of what should we look forward to in the year ahead, starting from 1st of December, 2022?
I think we can look forward. The most important thing which I can say we can look forward to is continuity. When we are looking at the global south, we've had one of the countries, Indonesia has handed over to us. We will hand over to Brazil. They will hand over to South Africa. So we have got these 4 years. So, I mean, if I have to look at a time frame, let me look at a slightly longer time frame. So I think within these 4 years, we can have a much better adjustment of financial arrangements between the global south and the global north, which was all the time weighted so far to the global north. That is one. Number two, I think there will be certain challenges which we are going to face in implementing things like, say, our policies on climate change. But so long as we understand that we are moving in the forward direction, there is no such thing to say that we will complete it within a year. That is not going to happen. But so long as we are moving towards a particular direction, I think we can do that very well. On digitization, I think we can achieve a great deal because we are already leaders in that effect. There's one challenge which I think I need to put on the table, which is not directly related to G20. I think internally, we have to be very careful because there will be people out to disturb the environment, to embarrass India during the G20. We have seen that in the toolkits. We have seen that just, I think, 48 hours earlier, where a filmmaker during the jury made a very injurious comment. So those things are going to happen. We need to be prepared for it and counter them as time goes by.
Okay, we'll definitely try and look at how things move ahead. Thank you so much, General Katoj, Aditi, and Mr. Karju there as well for sharing your views and insight with us and our viewers. As our experts were pointing out, what we need to look forward to in terms of the year ahead, starting from 1st of December 2022, when India takes over the G20 presidency. The theme being One Earth, One Family, One Future clearly highlights what is on the agenda. 200 odd meetings in 50 cities across the country. Of course, it's going to be an action-packed year, and we'll keep a close watch and keep bringing you all the details and analysis here on Sansad Television. Thank you.